Concept cars will draw big crowds today when the New York International Auto Show opens to the public. Automakers want to show visitors experimental designs and hints of future models. Concept cars are expensive to build, but almost never hit the open road.
Concept cars have always been the dream machines of the automotive world. They're bold, daring, and often decades ahead of their time. Automakers build them to test new ideas, excite audiences, and show what the future might look like. But for every concept that sparks a trend, there are dozens that vanish into history, never making it to production. Some were too expensive, others too radical, and a few were simply impractical for everyday roads. Still, each one left an impression, a glimpse of what could have been if the stars had aligned differently. In this countdown, we'll explore 13 fascinating concept cars that wowed crowds at auto shows, made headlines in magazines, and captured the imagination of enthusiasts, only to disappear before they ever reached the dealership floor. These are the legends that remind us the future doesn't always arrive as expected. Number 13. 1956 Chrysler Norseman. The Chrysler Norseman is a name whispered with both awe and sorrow among car historians. Built in Italy by Ghia for Chrysler, it was one of the most advanced concept cars of the 1950s, featuring bold styling and futuristic engineering. Its most striking feature was the cantilevered roof, a floating design with no visible support pillars. This gave it a panoramic, airy look that was decades ahead of its time. The car also had hidden headlights, sculpted fenders, and a sleek fastback profile that made it look unlike anything else of its day. Inside, the Norseman carried power-adjustable seats, futuristic dashboard styling, and luxury features unheard of in 1956. It was a rolling showcase of Chrysler's design future. Unfortunately, fate intervened before the car could be shown to the public. The Norseman was shipped from Italy aboard the Andrea Doria ocean liner, which tragically sank off Nantucket in July 1956. The one and only Norseman prototype went down with the ship and was lost forever. Its disappearance turned the Norseman into one of the greatest lost cars of all time. Had it survived, it might have influenced Chrysler's styling for decades. Instead, it became an automotive ghost story, admired only in photos, a reminder of how even the boldest visions can vanish in an instant. Number 12. 1970 Lancia Stratos Zero. The Lancia Stratos Zero is one of those cars that looks like it drove straight out of a science fiction film. Designed by Marcello Gandini at Bertone and unveiled in 1970, the Zero was a radical wedge-shaped concept that redefined how a car could look. Standing only 33 inches tall, it was so low you could practically walk over it. Its sharp nose, hidden wheels, and dramatic single-pane windshield made it one of the boldest concept cars of its era. Getting inside was just as futuristic. Instead of conventional doors, the entire front windshield and roof tilted forward, and the driver slid in feet first. Once seated, the cabin was cramped and Spartan. But that wasn't the point. The Zero wasn't about comfort. It was about pushing design boundaries. Underneath, the car housed a mid-mounted 1.6-liter Lancia V4 engine, borrowed from the Fulvia. It wasn't an especially powerful unit, but it allowed the car to be fully drivable. The mechanicals mattered less than the design, though, because the Stratos Zero's job was to shock and inspire it did. While the Zero itself never entered production, it directly influenced the creation of the legendary Lancia Stratos HF rally car, which would go on to dominate international rally racing in the 1970s. In that sense, the Zero didn't vanish in vain. Its spirit lived on in one of the most successful competition cars of all time. Today, the one and only Stratos Zero still exists, preserved as an automotive sculpture that continues to amaze enthusiasts. Though it never reached showrooms, it remains one of the purest examples of how a concept car can shape the future without ever being built for the road. Number 11. 1955. Lincoln Futura. The 1955 Lincoln Futura is perhaps one of the most famous concept cars in history. Not because it ever reached production, but because of the extraordinary second life it found years later. Built by the Italian coach builder Gaia for Ford's Lincoln division, the Futura was created to dazzle audiences with its futuristic design and cutting-edge ideas. The car's most distinctive feature was its double-bubble canopy roof, which looked like a fighter jet cockpit dropped onto a luxury car. Painted in a shimmering pearlescent frost blue finish, the Futura seemed to change colors in the light, adding to its dreamlike appearance. Its body was long and wide, with exaggerated fins and bold chrome detailing that reflected America's obsession with space-age design in the mid-1950s. Inside, the cabin was just as daring, featuring push-button controls, a dramatic dash layout, and advanced gadgets meant to hint at the future of motoring. Underneath the bodywork sat a 368 cubic inch V8 engine, making it not just a display piece, but a fully functional vehicle. Despite all the excitement it generated, the Futura was never intended for mass production. It was built for show, not for the showroom. After a few years on the auto show circuit, the car was retired and sold for the symbolic sum of $1 to customizer George Barris. There, it seemed destined to fade into obscurity, until Hollywood called. In 1966, Barris transformed the Futura into the original Batmobile for the Batman TV series, instantly turning the forgotten concept into an icon of pop culture. Though the Lincoln Futura never made it to dealerships, it achieved immortality on television screens. Today, car enthusiasts and Batman fans alike remember it as the ultimate example of a concept car that never became a production model but still left an indelible mark on history. Number 10. 1938. Buick Y-Job. The Buick Y-Job is often regarded as the world's first true concept car, and it set the template for every showpiece that followed. Designed in 1938 under the direction of Harley Earl, General Motors' first design chief, the Y-Job wasn't just a flashy prototype. It was a rolling laboratory of ideas meant to preview the future of the automobile. The car's design was revolutionary for its time. It featured a sleek, low body with smooth, flowing lines that made most late 1930s cars look instantly outdated. Hidden headlights retracted into the fenders at the touch of a button, giving the front end a clean, modern look. Flush door handles, streamlined bumpers, and long horizontal proportions all contributed to a futuristic style that would influence GM designs for years. Inside, the Y-Job introduced features unheard of in the era, including power windows and a luxuriously appointed cabin with advanced controls. Under the hood, it carried Buick's straight-8 engine, making it a fully functional, drivable car rather than a static display piece. Perhaps the most unusual thing about the Y-Job was how it was used. Unlike most concept cars, which are kept under glass, Harley Earl drove the Y-Job regularly as his personal car around Detroit. For more than a decade, the public could see this futuristic machine on the streets, sparking endless curiosity about whether such designs would ever reach production. Ultimately, the Y-Job never did make it to showrooms, but its influence spread far and wide. Many of its design cues shaped American cars of the 1940s and 1950s, proving that a concept car could be more than a fantasy. It could be a blueprint. Today, the Y-Job is preserved in GM's Heritage Collection, a reminder of where the modern era of concept cars truly began. Number 9. 1970 Ferrari 512 S Modulo. When it comes to jaw-dropping concept cars, few can rival the Ferrari 512 S Modulo. Unveiled by Pininfarina at the 1970 Geneva Motor Show, this machine looked less like a car and more like a spacecraft from a futuristic movie. Based on the chassis of Ferrari's 512 S Endurance Racer, the Modulo was an audacious experiment in both design and engineering. The car sat impossibly low to the ground, measuring just 37 inches tall. Its wedge-shaped body, covered wheels, and dramatically flat surfaces gave it a shape that seemed to defy traditional automotive proportions. Entry into the cockpit came through a sliding canopy-style glass roof, adding to the science fiction feel. Underneath the futuristic bodywork lurked Ferrari's 5.0-liter V12 engine, capable of producing over 500 horsepower. In theory, the Modulo could top 220 miles per hour, staggering performance numbers for its time. But while the mechanicals were real, the Modulo's purpose wasn't to chase speed records. It was meant to demonstrate just how far design could be pushed when freed from the constraints of practicality. For decades, the Modulo was kept as a non-running showpiece, a conversation starter at auto shows and museums. Then, in the early 2010s, collector James Glickenhaus purchased the one-of-a-kind Ferrari and restored it to full driving condition. The sight and sound of the Modulo finally moving under its own power cemented its status as one of the most legendary concept cars ever built. Yet, for all its brilliance, the Modulo was never even considered for production. It was too radical, too impractical, and too far ahead of its time. Today, it survives as a symbol of pure creativity, proof that sometimes the most unforgettable cars are the ones that were never meant for the road. Number 8. 1948 Tasco Prototype. In the years immediately after World War II, aircraft design heavily influenced the automotive world. Few cars captured that crossover more dramatically than the 1948 Tasco, short for the American sports car. Designed by the legendary Gordon Bierrig, who was also responsible for the iconic Auburn and Cord, the Tasco looked more like a jet on wheels than a conventional automobile. The first thing people noticed was its unique canopy design. Instead of standard doors, the Tasco used sliding canopies inspired by fighter planes. The driver and passenger climbed in as though they were entering a cockpit, giving the car a futuristic aura. Even more groundbreaking was its roof. The Tasco introduced the very first T-top design, decades before the feature became popular in cars like the Chevrolet Corvette of the 1970s. The body was long and narrow, with enclosed rear wheels and open front wheels that gave it a striking, almost insect-like stance. Under the hood, it was powered by a standard Mercury V8, but performance was not the main story here. The Tasco's purpose was to test design boundaries and spark public imagination. Unfortunately, the radical styling proved too extreme for its time. Critics dismissed it as odd and impractical, while financial backers worried that a production version would never find enough buyers. Only one Tasco was ever built, and after its debut, it quietly faded from the spotlight. Today, the single surviving Tasco is preserved in a museum collection, a fascinating time capsule from an era when automakers dared to borrow directly from aviation. Though it never made it to production, its pioneering T-top roof left an enduring legacy, proving that even a failed concept can shape the cars of tomorrow. Number 7. 1953 Buick Wildcat I. In the early 1950s, General Motors dominated the American auto industry, and its Motorama shows were legendary for unveiling dream cars that hinted at the future. One of the stars of the 1953 Motorama was the Buick Wildcat I, a sleek fiberglass-bodied concept that aimed to combine performance, luxury, and cutting-edge design. The Wildcat I was Buick's answer to the growing interest in sporty two-seaters like the newly introduced Chevrolet Corvette. Its long, low profile, flowing fenders, and aggressive grille gave it a presence unlike any other Buick of its time. Finished in a dazzling metallic turquoise, it looked modern and daring, pushing the boundaries of Buick's usually conservative styling. Inside, the car featured bucket seats, a center console with a floor-mounted shifter, and a cockpit-style dash that made the driver feel like they were in command of something far more exotic than a standard Buick. Underneath the hood sat a 322 cubic-inch nailhead V8 engine paired with Buick's Dynaflow automatic transmission, giving the Wildcat I both style and muscle. Despite its potential, GM decided against producing the Wildcat I. Chevrolet already had the Corvette, and there was little appetite within the corporation to allow two fiberglass-bodied two-seaters to compete against one another. The Wildcat name would live on in Buick's lineup during the 1960s, but the original concept itself remained a one-off showpiece. Today, the Wildcat I is remembered as one of Buick's most daring creations, a car that proved the brand could think outside the box and embrace performance-oriented styling. It never made it past the prototype stage, but for the crowds who saw it in 1953, it was a glimpse of a Buick that could have been bold, sporty, and ahead of its time. Number 6. 1954 Pontiac Bonneville Special. By the mid-1950s, GM was using its Motorama shows to showcase futuristic designs that stretched the imagination, and Pontiac stepped into the spotlight with the 1954 Bonneville Special. It was Pontiac's first true concept car, built to prove that the brand could be just as stylish and forward-thinking as Chevrolet or Cadillac. The Bonneville Special was inspired by America's fascination with aviation and speed. Its fiberglass body was sleek and low, with dramatic tail fins, a pointed nose, and canopy-style doors that lifted upward like those of a fighter jet. The overall look was futuristic, almost like a car you might expect to see on the Bonneville Salt Flats, which is exactly where the car drew its name. Inside, the cockpit was equally advanced. Bucket seats, a center-mounted speedometer, and bold chrome accents gave it a sporty, space-age feel. For power, Pontiac used its straight-8 engine, ensuring the car wasn't just a static showpiece, but a fully functional machine. Two prototypes were built, one painted metallic bronze and the other metallic green, and both wowed audiences at Motorama shows. Yet when the time came to consider production, Pontiac's conservative image held it back. Executives feared the radical design would alienate traditional customers, and the car was quietly shelved. Instead, the lessons learned from the Bonneville Special influenced Pontiac's styling in the years that followed. By 1957, the Bonneville name was resurrected for a performance-oriented production car, which went on to become one of Pontiac's most famous models. Today, the original Bonneville Special prototypes survive in museum collections, cherished as rare glimpses of what Pontiac could have become had it embraced a bolder identity. Built once, admired by many, and then tucked away, the Bonneville Special remains a reminder of Pontiac's untapped potential in the 1950s. Number 5. 1979 Mercedes-Benz CW311. When people think of Mercedes-Benz in the 1970s, they picture stately sedans and well-built coupes. But hidden away in 1979, Mercedes stunned enthusiasts with the CW311, a concept car that proved the company could design something as wild and futuristic as any Italian exotic. The CW311 was engineered by German firm B&B Automobiltechnik, with full blessing from Mercedes, and its purpose was clear: push the boundaries of aerodynamics and performance. The CW stood for Coefficient of Drag, or CD in modern terms, reflecting the emphasis on sleek airflow. Its wedge-like shape, hidden headlights, and smooth bodywork gave it a futuristic appearance far removed from Mercedes's traditional design language. Power came from Mercedes's massive 6.9-liter V8 engine, producing more than 370 horsepower. With a projected top speed of 186 miles per hour, the CW311 wasn't just a design study, it was a genuine supercar contender. Even more dramatic were its gull-wing doors, a direct nod to the legendary 300 SL, which made the prototype feel like a spiritual successor to Mercedes's most iconic sports car. The CW311 created plenty of buzz, especially in Europe, where it stood toe-to-toe with Lamborghinis and Ferraris in terms of design ambition. But Mercedes ultimately decided against production. The company was focused on luxury and refinement, not low-volume supercars. The costs and risks of building such a machine outweighed the potential rewards, and the CW311 faded into obscurity. However, its story didn't end there. The CW311 later inspired the ultra-rare Isdera Imperator 108i, a small production German supercar of the 1980s. While not officially a Mercedes, it carried the DNA of the CW311, keeping the concept's spirit alive. Today, the CW311 stands as proof that Mercedes once dared to imagine itself in the supercar world. A bold, one-off experiment that disappeared almost as quickly as it appeared. Number 4. 1953. General Motors Firebird I. In the early 1950s, the jet age was in full swing, and General Motors decided to capture that excitement on 4 wheels. The result was the 1953 GM Firebird Y, a car that looked more like a fighter plane than an automobile. Built under Harley Earl's direction, it was the first in a series of experimental turbine-powered concepts that showed just how futuristic GM was willing to think. The Firebird I had a needle-nosed fuselage, a bubble canopy cockpit, and a tall, vertical tail fin that looked straight off a jet fighter. Its aircraft-inspired design was so radical that it turned heads everywhere it went, perfectly timed with America's obsession with aviation and space. But this wasn't just a design exercise. It was powered by a Whirlfire gas turbine engine producing 370 horsepower. In theory, the car could hit extreme speeds, though in practice, It guzzled fuel and generated so much heat that it was completely impractical for road use. The turbine also made it difficult to manage at low speeds, reminding everyone that the leap from jet engines to cars wasn't so simple. The Firebird I was never intended for production. Instead, it served as a headline grabber for GM's Motorama shows, demonstrating the company's willingness to experiment with propulsion systems and futuristic designs. It later paved the way for Firebird II and Firebird III, which carried even more advanced turbine experiments. Though the Firebird I vanished as a production idea, it cemented its place in history as one of the most daring concept cars ever built. Today, the lone prototype survives in GM's Heritage Collection, preserved as a symbol of 1950s optimism and imagination, a reminder of the moment when cars and jets seemed destined to share the same future. Number 3. 1970 Holden Hurricane. In 1970, few expected Holden, an Australian manufacturer known for practical family cars, to unveil one of the most futuristic concepts of the decade. But that's exactly what happened with the Holden Hurricane, a car so advanced that it seemed more like a spaceship than a road vehicle. The Hurricane's design was strikingly low and angular, with a sharp wedge profile that rivaled the boldest Italian exotics of the era. Instead of doors, the entire canopy, including the roof, windshield, and side windows, lifted forward and upward, allowing driver and passenger to climb inside. It was an entrance worthy of a science fiction film, and it left a lasting impression on anyone who saw it. Beneath the dramatic styling sat a mid-mounted 4.2-liter V8 engine, an unusual choice for Holden, and one that gave the Hurricane excellent balance and performance potential. But it wasn't just about power. The Hurricane packed in technology that was decades ahead of its time. It had digital instrumentation, automatic climate control, a rear-view camera system, and even an early navigation aid that used magnetic sensors along the road. These were features that wouldn't become common in production cars until 30 or 40 years later. Despite its brilliance, the Hurricane was never considered for production. Holden built it as a showcase of engineering talent, not as a commercial product. After its debut, it was tucked away and nearly forgotten, only to be rediscovered and restored decades later. Today, the Hurricane is remembered as one of the most advanced concept cars ever created. While it never saw a showroom floor, it stands as proof that even a company known for modest family sedans could dream big and produce a machine that looked and felt like it had time-traveled from the future. Number 2. 1968 Chevrolet Astro II. By the late 1960s, Chevrolet was riding high with the Corvette, but designers and engineers wanted to push even further. The result was the 1968 Chevrolet Astro II, a mid-engine prototype that teased what many thought would be the next evolutionary step for America's sports car. The Astro II, also known as the XP880, was built to explore the idea of moving the Corvette's engine behind the driver, a layout that promised sharper handling and exotic car appeal. Its design was sleek and modern, with smooth lines, a wide stance, and proportions that echoed European supercars like Ferrari and Lamborghini. The passenger cabin was pushed forward, while the rear deck stretched long to house a big block V8. Power came from a 427 cubic-inch engine mounted midship, paired with a transaxle. This wasn't just a pretty showpiece, it was a fully drivable car, that demonstrated GM's capability to build a world-class sports car. For Corvette fans, it looked like a glimpse into the future, but GM executives hesitated. They worried that the Astro II would be too expensive to manufacture, and they feared alienating traditional Corvette buyers who loved the car's front-engine layout. As a result, the Astro II remained a one-off, never advancing beyond prototype stage. Still, the car left a powerful legacy. It kept the dream of a mid-engine Corvette alive, a dream that finally became reality with the launch of the C8 Corvette in 2020, more than 50 years later. For enthusiasts, the Astro II is remembered as the Corvette that could have changed history decades earlier, had GM been willing to take the risk. Number 1. 1935. Bugatti Type 57. Aerolithe. Few lost cars are surrounded by as much mystery and legend as the 1935 Bugatti Type 57 Aerolithe. Unveiled at the Paris Auto Show, it stunned audiences with its breathtaking lines and advanced construction. Designed by Jean Bugatti, the Aerolithe was meant to showcase what the future of luxury performance cars could look like. The Aerolithe's body was crafted from Electron, a lightweight magnesium alloy that was notoriously difficult to work with. Because the material couldn't be welded, Bugatti used riveted seams that ran dramatically along the spine of the car, from nose to tail. This detail, along with its flowing teardrop profile and low stance, gave the Aerolithe an appearance unlike anything else on the road. Under the hood, the Aerolithe carried Bugatti's 3.3-liter straight-eight engine, offering strong performance for its time. But it wasn't the powertrain that captured imaginations, it was the design. The Aerolithe looked more like art than machinery, a rolling sculpture that combined elegance with engineering daring. And then it vanished. After its debut, the original Aerolithe prototype disappeared without explanation. Some believe it was dismantled, others think it was destroyed during World War II, but no trace has ever been found. What remains are photographs, accounts from those who saw it, and its influence on later Bugattis, most notably the legendary Type 57 Atlantic, which borrowed heavily from its design. The Aerolithe's disappearance has only added to its mystique. It stands as one of the greatest what-ifs in automotive history, a car that hinted at a bold future but was swallowed by time. For enthusiasts, it remains the ultimate symbol of how even the most visionary creations can be here one moment and gone the next. Concept cars are more than just vehicles. They're glimpses into what could have been. They represent bold experiments, wild imagination, and the daring spirit of designers who wanted to shape the future. Some were too advanced, others too costly, and a few were simply misunderstood. But each of these 13 creations left behind a story that still fascinates car enthusiasts today. They remind us that progress doesn't always follow a straight road, and sometimes the most unforgettable machines are the ones that never made it past the prototype stage. These vanished concepts may never have reached the showroom, but their legacy continues to inspire dreamers and designers around the world.